Hello, wonderful English learners, and welcome back to the Daily English Subtitled Podcast. I am your host, Ash, and I am absolutely thrilled to be with you today. If you're listening to this, chances are you're on your own incredible journey to master English, and I want you to know you are not alone. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that is very close to my heart, English improving strategy. From beginner to fluent, my journey and tips. This isn't just another episode where we discuss grammar rules or vocabulary lists. While those are incredibly important, today is about something more profound. It's about the mindset, the strategies, and the personal journey that transformed my own English from a hesitant, often frustrating experience into a confident, fluent expression. I remember vividly the days when I struggled to form a simple sentence, when I felt a knot in my stomach every time I had to speak English, fearing mistakes, fearing judgment. I understood so much when I listened or read, but when it came to speaking, it felt like my tongue was tied, and my mind went blank. Can you relate to that feeling? That moment when you understand everything, but the words just won't come out? For years, I followed the traditional path. Textbooks, grammar exercises, memorizing endless vocabulary lists. And yes, I made progress. I could read complex articles, understand movies with subtitles, and even pass exams. But true fluency, the ability to express myself spontaneously and naturally, felt like an elusive dream. It was frustrating, disheartening, and at times I felt like giving up. I would compare myself to native speakers or even to other learners who seemed to pick it up so much faster, and I'd feel a wave of inadequacy wash over me. I'm sure many of you have felt that too. That feeling of being stuck, of hitting a plateau despite all your hard work. But then something shifted. It wasn't a single magical moment, but a series of small revelations, a change in perspective, and a willingness to experiment with new approaches. I started to look at English not just as a subject to be studied, but as a living, breathing language to be experienced. I began to understand that fluency wasn't about perfection, but about effective communication. It wasn't about avoiding mistakes, but about learning from them. And most importantly, it was about finding joy in the process rather than just focusing on the destination. My goal with this podcast today is to share those pivotal shifts, those practical strategies, and those personal insights that truly made a difference in my English learning journey. Whether you're just starting out, feeling stuck at an intermediate level, or pushing towards advanced fluency, I believe there's something here for everyone. I want to empower you, to inspire you, and to provide you with actionable tips that you can implement starting today. So let's embark on this journey together and discover how you can transform your English from beginner to fluent, just like I did. Let's begin. Before we dive into the specific techniques and resources, I want to talk about something that is often overlooked but is absolutely crucial for long-term success in language learning: your mindset. Learning English or any language is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It requires patience, consistency, and a deep understanding that progress isn't always linear. There will be days when you feel like you're making huge leaps, and then there will be days when you feel like you're not moving at all or even going backward. This is completely normal. Key is to keep showing up, even on those challenging days. One of the biggest hurdles I faced, and I know many of you do too, was the fear of making mistakes. I was so afraid of sounding foolish, of mispronouncing a word, or of using the wrong grammar that I often chose to remain silent. This, of course, was counterproductive. How can you improve if you don't practice? And how can you practice without making mistakes? It's impossible. I had to learn to reframe mistakes not as failures but as invaluable learning opportunities. Every mistake is a sign that you are trying, that you are pushing your boundaries, and that you are actively engaging with the language. Think of it this way. A baby learning to walk falls countless times, but does it stop trying? No. Gets back up, learns from each fall, and eventually it walks. Your English journey is no different. I remember one time early in my learning I was trying to tell a story about a funny incident at a party. I wanted to say, I was so embarrassed, but instead I accidentally said something that sounded like, I was so pregnant. The look on my listener's face was priceless, a mix of confusion and polite amusement. I wanted to disappear. But after the initial embarrassment, we both had a good laugh, and I learned a valuable lesson about similar-sounding words. More importantly, I learned that people are generally understanding and supportive. They appreciate your effort, and they're usually more interested in connecting with you than in judging your grammar. So embrace those mistakes. They are your teachers. Another crucial aspect of a successful mindset is finding your why. Why are you learning English? Is it for career advancement, to travel the world, to connect with people from different cultures, or perhaps to enjoy movies and books in their original language? Your why is your fuel, your motivation when the journey gets tough. For me, it started with a desire to travel and communicate freely, but it evolved into a passion for understanding different perspectives and connecting with people on a deeper level. When you have a strong why, it's easier to stay committed even when motivation wanes. Finally, let's talk about confidence. Confidence in English isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, brick by brick, through consistent practice and positive self-talk. Start small. Celebrate every new word you learn, every sentence you form, every conversation you have, no matter how brief. Don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Your journey is unique. Believe in your ability to learn and remind yourself of how far you've already come. Confidence will follow. Now that we've laid the groundwork with the right mindset, let's dive into the practical strategies that truly accelerated my journey to fluency. I categorize these into two main areas, input and output. Think of input as feeding your brain with English and output as actively using what you've learned. Let's start with the power of input. This is where many learners spend a lot of time, but the key is to make it active input. It's not just about hearing English, it's about engaging with it. For listening, I became obsessed with podcasts and audiobooks. Not just any podcasts, but those that genuinely interested me, even if they weren't specifically for English learners. I started with topics I already knew a lot about in my native language, so the context helped me understand the English. I would listen actively, trying to catch new words, phrases, and even intonation patterns. If I didn't understand something, I wouldn't stop and look it up immediately. Instead, I'd try to infer the meaning from the context, and only if it was crucial to understanding the overall message would I pause and check. This trains your brain to deal with ambiguity, which is a vital skill in real-life conversations. I highly recommend finding podcasts that feature natural, unscripted conversations as they expose you to real-world English. Similarly, extensive reading became a cornerstone of my input strategy. And by extensive, I mean reading for pleasure, not just for study. Forget the boring textbooks for a moment. Find books, articles, blogs, or even social media posts that you genuinely enjoy reading. Start with graded readers if you're a beginner, then gradually move to authentic materials. The goal is to read a lot, to expose yourself to as much English as possible, without getting bogged down by every single unknown word. The more you read, the more you'll encounter words and phrases in different contexts, which helps solidify their meaning in your mind. I found that reading fiction, especially young adult novels, was incredibly effective because the stories kept me engaged, and the language was often accessible yet rich. Now, let's talk about output, which is where many learners feel the most resistance. But this is where the magic happens. You can consume all the English in the world, but if you don't actively produce it, you'll struggle with fluency. The most important output strategy for me was speaking, even if it was just to myself. I started narrating my daily activities in English. As I made breakfast, I'd describe what I was doing. I am cracking an egg. I am stirring the batter. The toast is popping up. Sounds silly, but it forces your brain to retrieve vocabulary and construct sentences on the fly. This low-pressure environment builds confidence and helps you identify gaps in your vocabulary or grammar without the fear of judgment. Beyond speaking to myself, I sought out opportunities for real conversation. This can be challenging, especially if you don't live in an English-speaking country. I used language exchange apps, found online conversation partners, and even joined local English-speaking clubs. The key is to find people who are patient and supportive. Don't wait until you feel ready to speak. You'll never feel 100% ready. Just start. Even short, simple conversations are incredibly valuable. Remember progress, not perfection. Writing regularly is another powerful output tool. Start a journal in English, even if it's just a few sentences a day. Write comments on English YouTube videos or forums. Find a pen pal or a language exchange partner you can text with. Writing helps you consolidate your thoughts, practice grammar, and expand your vocabulary in a less spontaneous environment than speaking. Gives you time to think, to correct yourself, and to experiment with different sentence structures. Finally, let's touch on vocabulary acquisition. Forget memorizing endless lists of isolated words. The most effective way to learn vocabulary is in context. When you encounter a new word in a podcast or a book, try to understand its meaning from the surrounding sentences. Then, actively try to use that word in your own speaking or writing. Repetition in context is key. I also found spaced repetition systems like flashcard apps such as Anki or Quizlet incredibly useful for reviewing new vocabulary at optimal intervals, ensuring that the words move from my short-term to my long-term memory. So you've got the right mindset and you're implementing core input and output strategies. Now, let's talk about some actionable tips and resources that can further supercharge your English learning journey. The first tip is to create an immersion environment, even if you're not living in an English-speaking country. This means surrounding yourself with English as much as possible. Change the language settings on your phone and computer to English. Watch movies and TV shows in English with English subtitles, then try without subtitles. Listen to English music and try to understand the lyrics. Label objects around your house in English. The more you expose yourself to the language in your daily life, the more natural it will become. Next, I want to share some of my favorite resources that have been instrumental in my own learning. Please remember, these are just suggestions and what works for one person might not work for another. The best resource is the one you'll actually use consistently. For listening, beyond general podcasts, I highly recommend Luke's English podcast for its engaging content and detailed explanations, and The English We Speak from BBC for short, relevant phrases. For audiobooks, Audible offers a vast selection, and many libraries offer free access to audiobooks through apps like Libby. For reading, graded readers from publishers like Oxford University Press or Cambridge University Press are excellent for beginners and intermediate learners. For authentic content, I love reading articles on Medium or engaging with English-speaking communities on Reddit. For speaking practice, apps like Tandem or HelloTalk connect you with native speakers for language exchange. If you're looking for more structured practice, platforms like Italki allow you to find affordable English tutors for one-on-one lessons. For vocabulary and grammar, Anki and Quizlet are fantastic for spaced repetition flashcards. For grammar, I found English Grammar in Use by Raymond Murphy to be incredibly clear and helpful. Finally, a crucial tip: set realistic goals. Instead of saying, "I want to be fluent," which is vague, try to make your goals smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. For example, instead of "I want to improve my speaking," try "I will have a 10-minute conversation in English with a language partner twice a week for the next month." This makes your goal concrete and gives you a clear path to follow. Celebrate each small achievement along the way, as these small wins build momentum and keep you motivated. We have covered a lot today, from cultivating the right mindset to implementing core strategies and utilizing effective resources. Let's quickly recap the key takeaways from our discussion. 1. Embrace the marathon mindset. Be patient, be consistent, and view mistakes as learning opportunities. 2. Find your why. Let your personal motivation fuel your journey. 3. Prioritize active input *. Engage deeply with English through podcasts, audiobooks, and extensive reading. 4. Practice active output. Speak even to yourself and write regularly to build confidence and fluency. 5. Create immersion. Surround yourself with English in your daily life. 6. Set SMART goals. Make your learning objectives specific and achievable. Remember, your English learning journey is unique, and there's no single magic formula. What works for one person might not work for another, so experiment, adapt, and find what resonates with you. The most important thing is to keep going, to keep practicing, and to never give up on your dream of fluency. Every single step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. You are capable, you are resilient, and you are making incredible progress. I truly hope that today's episode has provided you with valuable insights and renewed motivation. I believe in you, and I know you have what it takes to achieve your English fluency goals. Before we wrap up, I have a small request. If you found this episode helpful, please take a moment to rate and review our podcast on your preferred platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps other learners discover our content. Also, I'd love to hear about your English learning journey. What strategies have worked best for you? What challenges have you faced? Share your tips and experiences in the comments section below. Let's build a supportive community where we can all learn and grow together. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing my journey and tips with you. Keep practicing, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next episode of the Daily English Subtitled Podcast.